Are you considering going on a cruise but are not sure if your accessibility needs will be met? Or are you going to be traveling with someone who maybe has mobility or medical needs and you want to be sure that they can travel safely? Hi, I'm Rocki, and even though I'm pretty healthy, I do have rheumatoid arthritis, which can flare up at any time. And also, I travel a lot with my mom, who's 82 years old and also has mobility concerns. Planning a cruise for someone with accessibility concerns requires special attention and knowing what questions to ask. While this list is not all inclusive because everyone's needs are different, asking yourself these 5 questions will get you headed in the right direction. So, if that sounds like a good idea, you're in the right place. So, let's get into it. So the first question I'm going to want you to ask is, am I fit to travel? And this is just a basic question that only you and your doctor can correctly answer. So if you do have any medical issues or mobility concerns that you think might be really restrictive, the best thing to do is to get it cleared with your doctor or your medical professional. This is what I always do with my mom. Before we cruise anywhere, what we do is we have a doctor's visit and she goes and gets the okay to travel. And you want to do that. I mean, the cruising part is one part of the vacation, but a lot of times you have to fly in order to get to your cruise port. So you want to be sure that you can not only handle the ship, which might be a little bit easier to navigate mobility wise or medically, but you also want to be sure that you can handle whatever travel you need to do to get to your cruise. Like, for example, it was last year, Mom and I went to Europe, and it was not good for her to fly from America across the pond to go into Europe. So what we did is we did a transatlantic cruise both ways. This was much easier on her for her particular medical concern. So we didn't have to worry about the long haul flight. So just some things to consider. You just want to be sure that you put your safety first. And while cruising is relatively very safe and the ships are used to dealing with an older demographic that maybe might have more mobility and medical needs, you still want to be sure that you are setting yourself up for success and to have just the best vacation ever. So the first step to doing that is to be sure that you are medically cleared for travel. If you're going to be traveling with a mobility device such as a scooter or a wheelchair, there are a couple of things you're going to want to do first. The first thing is you want to see if you can book an accessible cabin. This is going to be the most convenient thing for you. On most cruise ships, your doorway is between 22 to 23 inches wide. And the regulations are now, they're much more strict with you not being able to leave your device in the hallway. Back in the days, they kind of looked the other way, but now they're really strict about it. So they're going to make sure that your mobility device can fit safely inside your stateroom, and you still need to have a little bit of room in there to maneuver around and everything. So the best way to make sure that that happens is to book yourself an accessible stateroom. Now, if you can't book an accessible stateroom, then you want to be sure that your device can safely fit inside. And one way to do that is what Mom and I, our preferred thing is to use the foldable electric wheelchair. This just worked really great because no matter what size the doorway was, we could fold the wheelchair up, and it's so compact, it folds so compactly, so we could just stash it in the room. So that was our preferred thing. Now, if you don't want to do that, or if you have the scooter, you still have a couple of options. So one thing you want to decide on is if you're going to use your own scooter or your own wheelchair. So if you're using your own mobility device, you want to have all of the specs ready, because either the airline, but specifically the cruise line, they're going to want to know the dimensions. They're going to want to make sure that it can be collapsible enough to fit safely inside of the room. So you want to have that information at the ready so that you can be prepared. So a lot of times I know on Carnival, and I'm sure most of the other major cruise lines, there's a questionnaire that they want you to fill out. So if you request an accessible cabin, say for example, they're going to want you to fill out a mobility or a medical questionnaire, and they're going to ask you all of these questions just to be sure that they can accommodate you and to make sure that you will get everything that you need so that you can cruise safely. So that's something that you're going to want to really ask. Have you filled out that mobility questionnaire? Have you checked the dimensions of your mobility device? Have you checked the dimensions of your room? Because basically the overall question is, can your mobility device fit safely inside your room and allow you to move freely once you are inside of your room? So this next item kind of snuck up on me the first time that I was cruising with special requests, and that is that there's actually a questionnaire that the cruise line wants you to fill out at least 30 days prior with any kind of special needs or special requests that you might have, just so that they can be sure that they're going to accommodate you. So not just for wheelchairs and scooters, but a lot of other things that maybe are medical or special requests that you might have. For example, distilled water for your CPAP machine, sharps containers, refrigeration for your medication, because you do have the cooler, the little refrigerator in your room, and for some people that's fine for the medication, but some people's medication really needs to be stored at a certain temperature, and the cruise lines can usually accommodate you with that if you just let them know ahead of time. Also, say for example, if you didn't get an accessible cabin, but you still want to use the shower, and a shower stool would be helpful, you can put a request in for that. A lot of times they can just bring in a little shower stool for you to make your showering a little bit easier. And also dietary restrictions. Right now it's pretty common to have vegetarian and gluten-free options available. But if you have any specific allergies, you want to let them know that well ahead of time, because then they can be sure to have food on there that is going to be suitable for you to eat. Port excursions are something that you also want to consider, and you want to plan ahead. A lot of times now on the website, when you're booking your shore excursions, they'll give you the difficulty level. So you want to pay attention to that. When I'm looking, especially when I'm traveling with my mom, I want to look for things like wheelchair accessible, or if they say things like the activity level. Sometimes they'll say, oh, it's an easy activity level, or if they say it's moderate or difficult. So then I know which ones I have to steer clear of. Another thing, though, that you want to look for is to see if a tender is required. Now, a tender is a little boat that will come up to your ship. You will board that smaller boat, and that little boat will bring you out to the actual port. So sometimes it's set up for wheelchairs and scooters, and sometimes it's not. So you really want to check the port accessibility. Some tenders, they won't allow wheelchairs or scooters on at all. And sometimes you'll go and it's, you can just roll right on. So it really just depends on the cruise line and how they have it set up with whatever, tender company or tender operation that they're using, if they'll be able to handle you. So you want to check that out, because what you don't want to do is, pay for this excursion and you're looking forward to it, and okay, because I'm speaking from experience, and then you get to exit the ship and they're like, no, we can't accommodate a scooter because there's just no way you're going to roll up onto the tender. So you pay attention to that and be sure to ask ahead of time before you book your excursion just how accessible it is, to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for you. So travel insurance is something that I always recommend, just because, why not? But, when you're traveling with accessibility and medical concerns, you really don't want to chance it. I mean, you just want to have that peace of mind where if something were to go wrong, that you would be able to safely and financially take care of whatever comes up. And, I've said this before, and, I'm just going to keep saying it because it's really just such a necessity to have it. And it's really not as expensive as people think, because a lot of times the cruise lines will offer vacation protection, but what you want to do is to see just what that includes, because a lot of times that is just what it says, vacation protection. So if you have to cancel your vacation and you want like a refund of a deposit or something like that, depending on, what's allowed in your particular policy, it'll cover that. Not necessarily any medical concerns, or even worse, if you have to get medically evacuated, because that's going to be your most expensive thing. Because let's face it, when you're on a cruise, where you're out at sea. It's not like you can just drive up or get an ambulance to a hospital. You're going to have to get medically evacuated, usually on a helicopter, to take you where you have to go. And that is not cheap. That's going to cost you a lot of money. So you want to be sure that, it's just the worst case scenario, but you just want to be prepared for it. Is it likely to happen? Absolutely not. But you want to just be prepared. And in my opinion, it's just my opinion, that the cost of the travel insurance it's more than low enough for you to just really get that, just to have that peace of mind, so that when you're traveling, you don't have to worry should, worst case scenario happen and you do need to use it. Like they say, it's better to have and not need than need and not have. And in the case of travel insurance, that is absolutely true. Well, guys, those are just 5 really quick questions to ask when you are booking your cruise and you have any accessibility or medical needs. So it's just a starting point. If you have any other ideas or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below to share with our community, so that we can all be better prepared when we cruise. And of course, if you like this video, if you found it helpful in any way, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.